Andrew Holland, who's also joining us from Avendus Capital. Andrew, thanks for waiting by patiently. It's a positive. I see a reluctant smile on your face. Are you still cautious in Indian market, but enjoying the party? Or have you trimmed your positions? What are you advising or taking position on? What's your current stance?
Yeah, well, we seem to have gone from the main party to the kind of after party now. You know, the point I would make, actually, just following on from this bond, you know, kind of inclusion in Bloomberg, is that you will get, you know, anywhere between $30 to $40 billion going into bonds. But what this means is that the currency will remain stable, if not appreciate very soon. And that gives the RBI that kind of scope, if they want to reduce rates, even if they have to wait for the Fed a little bit longer. So they could actually go before the Fed. If the Fed is pointing at the next move for them is down in terms of interest rates because of the data, the RBI could actually kind of take that step and reduce rates ahead of that, because the currency won't depreciate that much with all these inflows. So that's something that I think the banking sector will be looking at very closely. And if the 10-year bond yield goes below 7%, then I think that's very much on the cards. And all the kind of problems which the banks are facing at the moment in terms of NIMs and deposits, I think will start to fade away. So that's the key for the banking sector if that was to happen.
The key for the banking sector, and of course all the rate sensitives at that. But talking about rate sensitives and the auto companies that you flagged out, Andrew, of course Tata Motors is one stock which is in focus, and the entire Tata Group is coming back to the forefront this year. And of course there's a lot of news about value unlocking, about the kind of IPOs that the company has is planning or is doing. Of course with Tata Tech, there's now expected to be 4 or 5 new IPOs over the course of next 16 to 18 months. So that's got the street clearly excited. But within the Tata Group, if I had to ask you, which segments look the most poised for an aggressive growth, for a good return on capital, which are those sectors or segments that come to mind, Andrew?
Well, I think obviously the auto sector, the hotel sector in particular, would be one focus area. It's something we talked about before. So the hotel sector, you know, Prime Minister Modi is talking about tourism in India. That can only help going forward as well. But you know, with all the kind of holidays and experiences people want, this is one sector which I can see, you know, at the very start of a runway, which is very long going forward. So those are the kind of two sectors. The thing I would say is that, you know, is on this kind of you know, kind of getting valuations. It's all good, but of course we have to see how those companies perform as single entities listed on the exchange as well. So there's still some way to go. So I'm not overly kind of excited. Most analysts anyway looked at the group and sum of parts. So you know, unless there's some you know, great move in terms of let's just say the CV sector is turning upwards, that would be good, obviously, for a new listed company rather than being part of a passenger vehicle company as well.
Tata Motors is an established bet, but if you had to bet on something else or some other stock from within the Tata Group, what's looking strongest on the chart? So
Tata Chemical is something which we did recommend as a trading bet. That looks attractive for another. So it's already done up some 5-6% today, but I believe another 5-6% should be in the offing for the stock. So maybe closer to 1100, 1120 is where I would believe Tata Chemicals could probably try and find a mild bit of resistance. Tata Tech, even though the chart history is a lot more limited, but I think at closer to 1080-85 levels, that stock has also come back to an oversold nature in terms of indicators. That's another name to look out for. Tata Communication, I think, has been consolidating over the last couple of days. But when you look at the last 1 week, 10 days of price pattern, it's been almost like a V-shaped recovery for the stock from a sharp correction the stock had witnessed in good part of January as well as the month of February. So I would believe that all three of the stocks look attractive. Tata Motors is something which I've been recommending, and I believe still looks good for 1080 to 1100 target over the near term.
Okay, just wanted to talk about Westlife Food World with you, Naresh, because of course the company has got the clean sheet per se from the FSSAI saying that they have verified the company's usage of cheese, and they are They're sure that it's 100% real cheese, and that's the reason that stock has reacted positively. Let's pull up the intraday chart if we can of Westlife Food, because that will tell you there's a big 5 to 6% move there. Naresh, what's the view on the chart of Westlife plus the entire QSR space?
It still remains weak for the stock even after the bounce back. It has been making lower tops and lower bottoms for the last 5 months. So the current down move could be to the news, but overall the trend is still down. So till the time it doesn't recover above 830 levels, which is still pretty far from the current prices, the trend remains down. And we are seeing that similar trend across the QSR space. Most of the stocks are at 6-month lows, whether it is Devyani or Sapphire, or say the only one which comes out of that list is Sapphire, which is closer to a 52-week high. But majority of the other names are continuing to trend downwards. So if I have to look at it, I'll be watching out for Sapphire.
Sapphire Foods, that's what Naresh is betting on. We'll take a very quick break on that note. Tata Chem is buzzing high, so is Bharti, Motherson, and of course Tata Motors has been zooming up from the word go. We'll track all of these buzzers on the other side.
All right, so while the market appears to be flat or some recovery from the lows, one part of the market which has not done very well last 2-3 years is showing some early recovery, and that is specialty chemicals. Tata Chemical is one, but look at Ganesh Benzo, look at Gujarat Fluoro, many other specialty chemical companies are kind of showing some sparks. Andrew, this space has seen a lot of rough weather last few years, I'll say 2 to 3 years, specialty chemical, the high margin ones, performance chemicals. Are you seeing some bottoming out there in terms of valuation, or even the macro headwinds of Chinese dumping, etc., getting over anytime soon? Would you look at that space, or it's too early?
It's slightly early because I mean, obviously we've seen what's coming out of China today with their forecast for GDP growth, which I think most people feel is quite optimistic. There still hasn't been a big kind of bazooka fired into the economy to get it going. So I expect more of the same until you study the economy, give confidence back to people in the property market in China before you can really kind of start looking at the chemical sector here. So it's a bit like how can I put it? It's a bit like the IT sector. I think that's kind of towards the bottom. If interest rates are coming down, and that's the tailwind that you have there. But until China picks up, then I don't see that there's any tailwind for the chemical companies. If anything, it's probably more headwinds in terms of pricing heading lower as well.
Okay, that point is taken, Andrew. But in the meantime, there's a big breakout happening as far as some of these PSU banking names are concerned. Take a look at UCO Bank, Central Bank, IOB, SBI for that matter, Union Bank. They're all up anywhere between 5 to 10%, and good amount of price volume action on some of these names as well. But Andrew, specifically on the PSU banking names, what's the view?
I think that, my view is overall in the banking sector, I'm more bullish, from the facts that I mentioned before about the bond inclusion and money going into bonds and bringing down yields. So that's the overall kind of sentiment which I feel, or narrative which I feel is going to play out for the banking sector. As regards the PSU banks, I'm not quite buying into the governance story and everything else. I still think I'd rather be in the private banks at this stage, which have underperformed anyway, than chase PSU banks at the moment. I just rather have that margin of safety with the private banks.
Right, okay. That's that and the entire PSB rally, which is playing out hard right now. Looking at some of the other buzzers, Tata Motors, of course, is right there on top. You've got an M&M, Bharti as well, which is holding out very well. And NTPC, of course, has been quite the buzzer of late, continues to hold up as we speak. On the flip side, though, Bajaj Finance is seeing some acute weakness. That stock is down about 4.5%. Let's bring up that intraday graph. And the weakness or the sudden plunge has only come in post the mid-session or so. That stock lower sharply by about almost 4%. And then, of course, the entire IT pack has been weighing heavy on the markets from the word go. Reliance started off with a downtick of nearly about 1% or so, and from there it seemed just a mild bit of recovery, but it's still weighing heavy. And private banks haven't done anything today, so Kotak, Axis Bank are all in the red as we speak right now. And today L&T as well is taking a bit of a breather. That's down about 0.7%. Kunal, buy on dips, is that the strategy for L&T?
Yeah, so I think last week we were mentioning that the stock has come back to a slightly overbought territory on the 3650, 3700 levels. If it drops back to 3550 mark, that could be a good point to try and buy the stock again, because of the the nature of the stock, which is a lot more moderate beta. You have to buy in zones where the stock actually cools off, comes back to its short-term moving average. In this case, maybe closer to the 20-day moving average, which is around the 3550, 3570 mark for L&T. I think that could be a very good point to try and average out further.
Okay, point taken. Let's take some closing strategies from our technical experts. And Andrew, on that note, we let you go. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us. But just Naresh, coming to you on the PSU banks, if there's any name that you want to spot there, and then your closing trade idea.
So we'll continue to focus on SBI, a fresh 52-week high and all-time high today. So that's a stock which can still continue towards higher levels. So that's one. On the closing trade, it would be IndusInd Bank, which has been showing the latest strength for the last two sessions, hit a new swing high. So expecting some momentum in IndusInd Bank.
You, Kunal.
So that'll be a buy on Sun TV, a stock which I'd given it as a recommendation yesterday also, expecting the stock to form a major bottom for itself at levels of 600 to 620. So I think it's a good risk reward to go for a buy at current levels, expecting targets closer to 700 plus for Sun TV.
Yeah, we were just highlighting the chemical names, and just to put the spotlight on Balaji Amines as well as Alkyl Amines, both of those stocks have suddenly seen a bit of a spike. Actually, Balaji was holding strong for most part of the trading session, and Alkyl I think has actually managed to perk up and get added into that momentum in the last few minutes as well. Tata Chemicals, of course, is partly the reaction to the Tata news in terms of the entire group, whether it is Tata Motors demerger or the fact that Tata Sons might get listed. But all of that is something that we'll try and decode after this very short break. Don't go anywhere.